Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney loses major lawsuit motion abusing the First Amendment for DEI hiring. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Anybody who's been following the news for the last couple of years and the YouTube channels knows that Disney has been focused on what they would call inclusivity by excluding certain people from working for the company. If you don't believe in what the management believes, not all of the employees, not the stockholders who actually own the company, but if you don't agree with the management at Disney, if you have different political views from them, they may even fire you like they did with Gina Carano. They're going to have a problem doing that in the future because it looks like they're going to lose the lawsuit with Gina Carano. She didn't win the lawsuit, but she won an important motion where Disney was trying to get her case thrown out before Gina and Elon Musk, who's financing her case, were able to put on their case and make their claim. Well, a judge just decided, no, Disney, you don't get to just pick who you want to hire based on your ideology. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is something you could do in your personal life. But when it gets brought into the office, any company that does that is opening itself up for a massive lawsuit. And that's what happened to Disney. And Gina Carano is a good person. If this was only about Gina Carano getting vindication for her role on the Mandalorian Star Wars show, that would be great and it would be worthwhile. But this is so much bigger than that because Disney, in their defense of her lawsuit, took the position that they had the right to hire people who represent their personal values, their ideological values. And that's what the judge threw out and said, hey, wait a minute, that's a little bit much. You didn't even demonstrate that you had these values and that you were acting on these values and not just in her case. So the judge says, this thing's going to trial. Coming from Deadline, Gina Carano beats Disney's move to kill Mandalorian firing suit. Now the trial looms. According to the judge, quote, defendants have not identified any evidence in the complaint or otherwise to substantiate a claim that they employ public-facing actors for the purpose of promoting the values of respect, decency, integrity, or inclusion, asserts California-based Judge Sherilyn Garnett in an order kneecapping Disney's move to see Gina Carano's legal action tossed out. Quote, accordingly, defendants' invocation of the supposedly detrimental effects of plaintiff's mere presence as one of defendants' employees lacks constitutional import. So you have to say that you have a reason for doing this, and you have to demonstrate the claims you make. If you're going to say that her mere association as an actor in one of your many projects damages your company's reputation, and you have a right to protect your company's reputation and your company's views, and she's violating those views just by existing, they have to at least back it up with some evidence. While no trial date has been set, unless the force steps in, it is clear at this pivotal point, Gina Carano's Elon Musk-financed lawsuit is heading towards trial. A trial if the parties don't reach a pricey settlement first, which is certainly not out of the question in an increasingly messy matter like this. This case is really fundamental. Their First Amendment claim that, hey, we're doing creative work, so we're allowed to work with people who express creativity in a way that we like. And if we think that someone on a personal level has beliefs and expresses those beliefs in a way that don't really align with what we believe, we have a right to fire that person. Not only not hire that person, which of course also is bad, but they have a right to fire that person. This is a precedent case. Even just winning on this motion is a major win. It puts Hollywood and it puts other companies on notice. In other industries, you can't treat people like garbage just because they don't believe in what you believe in. Quote, at this stage in the litigation, the court cannot conclude, as defendants urge it to, that plaintiffs' continued employment by defendants would inhibit or intrude upon defendants' right to expressive association. And that was from Judge Garnett earlier in the 23-page denial order, centering on Disney and fellow defendants Lucasfilm and Huckleberry Industries' ability to choose who they do and don't want to be associated with. Quote, as an initial order, unlike the Boy Scouts or the JCs, defendants are not members-only nonprofit organizations. Instead, defendants are for-profit corporations who, as relevant to this lawsuit, employ actors such as the plaintiff as well as administrative staff, to create television series and films. This lawsuit is about Hollywood getting called out, saying, look, you can't just decide that DEI is the way you want to go. You can't just let go of all of your white employees, let's say, or all of your Asian employees, or all of your straight employees, or whatever it is that management decides they want to do. You can't just fire all of them and say, well, we don't think that they're into our ideology. They don't even own the company. These are just people that work at the company. And in the case of Bob Iger especially, temporarily, he's going to be leaving pretty soon. A year? Why is he destroying people's careers just because those people don't fit his personal ideological beliefs? I'm sure you can see this has a lot more to do with the future of DEI than it does just Gina Carano's lawsuit. In their April 9th dismissal motion against Gina Carano's wrongful discharge and sex discrimination lawsuit over being fired from The Mandalorian, Disney stated that the ex-martial arts fighter lost her Star Wars series gig in 2021 because of her decision, quote, to publicly trivialize the Holocaust by comparing criticism of political conservatives to the annihilation of millions of Jewish people, notably not thousands, was the final straw for Disney. So there's Disney pointing to a tweet that they didn't like, and as a result, they fire her. But at the same time, Mark Hamill said some pretty offensive things that were really exactly the same kind of things. And did he get disciplined? Was he terminated? Was he told he's not welcome anymore? He's going to be unpersoned and won't get work from Disney anymore? No, he wasn't told that. And what's different about Mark Hamill compared to Gina Carano? Well, they agree with the same ideology. They dislike the same presidential candidates. Okay, I mean, if you think you're going to do that and you're not going to get sued and you're going to destroy people's reputation, Bob Iger is learning that's not the way these things go in court. Now, the filing is massive. It's 23 pages. It's like 8,000 words or something. But we will go over some of it because it's got a tremendous amount of information. This is Gina Carano versus Disney. And one of the things that's the most amazing thing is, Gina Carano has her own social media. Disney gave her an opportunity. She took the opportunity. Disney didn't give her enough money that she could retire for the rest of her life. It was just a job with Disney, a contract job. Still, it was a good opportunity. But for Disney to say, look, we gave you this part-time contract job. So as a result, you're not allowed to have any ideological views that we don't agree with. And if you get out of line with any of your ideas on your own social media account, and if you don't promote the ideas that we want you to promote on your own social media account, that may not be okay with the company. Can you imagine you take on a part-time opportunity, all of a sudden they're telling you what you're allowed to believe and what you're allowed to say publicly? How much stress and aggravation Gina Carano must have had to go through because there were things that she thought that were going on in the country that she ought to comment on. She had strong views on. And some of the changes in the country are pretty scary changes. So this is a time for more of us to communicate and say how we feel and hopefully communicate with each other, even if we have different ideas. Not a time for us to be shut up or we're going to be thrown out of our jobs. That's tyrannical. This case arises from Plaintiff Gina Carano's termination from the Disney Plus show The Mandalorian due to posts she made on various social media platforms, including Twitter. After hiring Gina Carano, Disney prominently featured her in promotional materials for the show. Plaintiff's contract for the first season designated her as a guest actor entitled to a minimum salary of $25,000 per episode in which she appeared. Given the popularity of the Cara Dune character, Plaintiff's agent saw an increase in her pay for the second season, but Defendants refused, offering her a one-time bonus of $5,000 and the same $25,000 per episode minimum salary. That's negotiation, so Disney could make an offer. I think they should have paid her more. They should have appreciated the fact that her role was successful, that it was adding excitement for their property. They didn't appreciate that, but that's not illegal. That's their contract. They can do that. During the summer of 2020, Plaintiff began receiving frequent messages on social media, quote, to support various causes, adopt various ideologies, and hold herself out in certain ways. In particular, social media users urged the plaintiff to publicly support the Black Lives Matter movement, including by endorsing certain slogans associated with that movement, and to indicate her preferred pronouns in her social media profiles, all pushing Gina Carano to jump on the ideological bandwagon of the left. When Carano did not do so, members of the public accused her of being racist and levied various epithets at her, including one social media user who called her a transphobic bitch. Although one of Plaintiff's castmates supported her on social media, defendants did not intervene on her behalf. And we've seen big companies defend whoever they choose to defend very selectively and very aggressively. They go out and talk about toxic fandom. Well, it seems pretty toxic to be attacking Gina Carano just because she wasn't making even counter statements at this point. She just didn't want to participate in the Black Lives Matter movement and the rest of what they were trying to push out. On September 5th, 2020, Plaintiff criticized certain COVID-19 policies requiring businesses and churches to remain closed while allowing public protests. Because if you think about it, if you have masses of crowds in public protests, but you're not allowed to go to a church, that doesn't really seem right. So if you want to make a statement on that, you ought to be able to make a statement on that without losing your job. Gina Carano alleges that she was attacked for these views and that defendants made known their disapproval of Plaintiff's position. 1 week later, on September 12, 2020, frustrated by social media users' continued comments and critiques regarding her choice not to include her preferred pronouns in her Twitter account biography, Plaintiff put the words boop bop beep in her profile, referencing sounds a droid would make, because she did work on Star Wars. She then deleted the material a short time after originally posting it and shared that she'd spoken with her castmate Pedro Pascal about why other individuals listed their pronouns in their biographies. At some point in time, Disney began demanding an explanation from Gina and criticized her for not embracing social media users' demands that she list her pronouns. Disney engaged Gina in long phone calls, constant meetings, and what Gina refers to as a re-education program. As part of these communications, Disney required Gina to meet with representatives of the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Discrimination. Gina did so gladly, reviewed several documentaries that the representatives asked the plaintiff to watch, and the representatives provided positive feedback to Disney. Not satisfied, however, Disney continued to demand that plaintiff issue a public apology, including by asking Gina's publicist, so her publicity person that she pays, to force Gina to issue a statement admitting to mocking or insulting an entire group of people. Gina refused to issue defendants' proposed public statement, and Disney rejected her alternative proposal. Gina alleges that Disney increased their harassment of her at this point. And you can imagine if you're that publicist and you have this client, Gina Carano, she seems great and she's getting some work, but she's not all of Hollywood. And if that publicist doesn't go along with Disney, if they don't try to push their client to say, look, let's just kind of go along with Disney because it'll be bad for both of our careers, the publicist also gets put through hell and potentially loses their clients and loses other potential business. Again, the pushing tyrannical nonsense. That's why anything to do with this ideology is all tyrannical. It's not natural. If you have to push people this way, if you have to threaten their jobs this way, and pressure them to go along with you, to let them put words in your mouth, it's not normal. It's not healthy. However, interested in showing her good faith, Gina sought to donate to a GoFundMe page purportedly created to support the transgender community. Upon visiting the website, however, she read that the page had apparently been created by a Lucasfilm employee and described Gina as a bigoted actress. When Gina brought the website to Lucasfilm's attention, Lucasfilm denied that any of its employees had created the GoFundMe account. Shortly thereafter, the page was altered to instead describe Gina as ignorant, and its organizer was no longer identified as a Lucasfilm employee. That's a funny coincidence that the page changed immediately like that. I don't think that's a coincidence. Of course they worked at Lucasfilm. To Gina's knowledge, no Lucasfilm employee was ever disciplined for this conduct. Disney informed Gina's publicist that they would require Gina to participate in a video conference with Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy and 45 of defendants' employees who identified as part of the LGBT community as a litmus test. Although several of these employees had contributed to the above-mentioned GoFundMe account, Disney encouraged Gina's publicist to describe them as a friendly group. Gina alleges that in Disney's view, she had to grow and learn. Until Disney knew where her mindset was currently regarding pronouns, Disney would not allow her to speak to the media and would not include her in promotional materials. That would be their promotional materials promoting their shows. As far as her speaking to the media, as far as her being included in promotional materials, that is a legal decision that Disney gets to make. They're limiting Gina's opportunities. I haven't seen her contract. I am sure her contract clearly says Gina being included in any kind of promotional materials is completely subject to Disney's approval and decision. That's fine for them. And they have to promote the story of the show. Whatever they're doing, that is a Disney right. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with everything else. Gina declined the proposed meeting, but offered to take a smaller group of 5 or 6 employees to dinner for a face-to-face discussion, a counteroffer to which Disney did not agree. And why wouldn't Disney do that? Because they just didn't want to listen. All they wanted to do was talk. After Gina suggested she might need legal assistance to resolve the dispute, Disney instead required Gina to undergo media training. At this point, it would have been good for Gina to get an attorney involved. I'm sure she knows that now. It's too bad her manager or agent didn't help her with that advice. It actually would have made it easier on Disney as well, because once attorneys get involved, everyone treats each other differently. They know they're creating a record. They have to be very careful about how they behave. And sometimes they don't go to extremes when they see an attorney is involved. So it's unfortunate that she didn't have one, but Disney should have suggested to Gina that she get an attorney to represent her. I don't know the rest of the details on it, but that really would have been appropriate at this time. And really, it would have been appropriate a week, 2, or like as soon as the problem came up and it was like a public story, that would have been the time to do it. Gina also faced backlash over statements she made on social media regarding the 2020 election process. As an example, Gina's complaint includes a November 5th, 2020 social media post in which Gina stated that we need to clean up the election process and called for laws that protect us against voter fraud, as well as for a voter identification requirement. Gina alleges that instead of defending her, Disney expressed dismay that Gina's political views did not match what they expected from their stars. And here's what Mark Hamill did without getting any negative feedback from Disney. Similarly, Star Wars actor Mark Hamill made various statements on social media drawing similarities between the Republican Party under Trump and the Nazi Party without objection from Disney. Indeed, Hamill made a guest appearance during the final episode of The Mandalorian's 2nd season. In response to Gina's post, however, Disney terminated Gina. Disney then released a statement characterizing her post as abhorrent and unacceptable because they denigrated people based on their cultural and religious identities. Bob Chapek, CEO of Disney at the time, further explained that Disney fired Gina because she didn't align with the company's values. That is very telling. That will be great evidence for Gina. Disney also canceled production of the Rangers of the New Republic series. After her termination and Disney's statement, members of the media as well as stalkers came to Gina's home, causing her to fear for her personal safety. Gina also alleges that Disney engaged in a smear campaign against her following her termination. For example, in November 2020, Gina filmed an episode of Running Wild with Bear Grylls, a show that aired on Disney-owned Nat Geo. After terminating Gina's employment, Disney removed this episode from Running Wild's lineup. After protests from fans and intervention by Bear Grylls, Disney reversed this decision, but removed Gina's name and likeness from promotional materials as well as the episode's listing. Whatever her contract says with regards to her promotion needs to be honored by Disney. If Disney isn't required to do it, and that's kind of just like a dirty deal for them to play on her, they can play a dirty deal on her, anything within the contract. What I care about here is this. Don't go and tell people what they're allowed to personally believe. Don't go and tell people, oh, you're not the right skin color. You don't have the same sexual interests that other people do at this company. We're looking for more people that like to do this or like to do that in their personal lives. That has nothing to do with doing a job in a professional work environment. Disney has no legal right to do that. Hollywood has no legal right to do that. They need to be stopped. DEI is being rolled back in multiple places throughout the country. It really needs to be eliminated everywhere. Because this kind of treatment of people that's so tyrannical, that's so abusive, that's so dehumanizing, and if you don't do what you're told, and if you don't think what you're told, and if you don't repeat what they tell you to think and do publicly, on your social media, during media appearances, then we're going to try to get you out of the industry, not just off of a job. They didn't need to do a smear campaign. The smear campaign was to ruin her in Hollywood, not just to get her off the Star Wars show. It's a great thing that Gina is going this far, taking on this challenge, continuing this pressure, because she could have backed down and tried to develop her career in a different way. This might be her entire career. A lot of people don't like to hire people once they see you suing other people in the business. The people in control of these Hollywood companies and these other big companies, have really made a mess in this country. It's up to us to figure out how to clean it up. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.